Okay. I got a lot done yesterday. As you can see, I finished up this purple set of bunk beds. I did something else, because you can tell these are not bunk beds, and then I figured out something else over here. So let's start with, push these over to the side. Let's start with the bunk beds. This is the purple set with the mattresses that I showed in the previous video, where I backed them with some foam core. Now I guess it just all depends on when the person is building these. Do they just want the person who's building them, do they just want to do a quick thing, make it out of paper and be done with it, and then if it gets squished they don't care? Or is it something where someone is going to build this, the person who's building it wants it to be a little bit more stable? Because as I can tell, if I can take my finger here, you can see here, this kind of presses in a little bit. I only put one piece of the foam core up here and then did the sides, so it's a little bit more rigid. I think that adding two pieces might work a little bit better, if you wanted it to be a little bit more rigid. I like the addition of the color paper, the painted paper that I used, and I know I'll use that in my own versions for my own pieces. I'm really pleased with how these came out. I do need to find a paint marker that matches this just a little bit better. And I know, as I'm looking at this too, I was looking at the other two pieces, I need to, when I'm doing the construction, remember to put some glue right here on the post and hold these down a little bit better. That's just a personal preference of mine. So this is pretty much the final version of what these will be. And I'm gonna put those over there. They have, because when I'm picking this one up, I didn't do any supports in here, so it's a little less, it's a little springier. This is lighter. This has a little bit more weight to it. I also think that cutting, because I showed in the previous video how I was cutting the holes for where the mattresses go in the posts, doing that method where I'm folding in, feels as though it's made these stronger, as well as making sure that there are on the bottoms here, adding these in on the bottom, I think structurally also make it a lot better. So I'm really pleased with this. There's just some absolutely tiny bits of zhuzhing that need to be done, and when I say tiny, I mean tiny. So I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to pull this out. This is the 1940s bed that I finally figured out how to do the bottom parts for, so everything's even. I don't know, sometimes the simplest thing just drives you nuts. And I remember, I'd gone through some notes, I made the mattresses for the bunk beds to fit this bed. Now, if you don't mind covering up a lot of this stuff. So I was kind of messing around, and I was doing a little bit of cleanup, and I realized that using just a small piece of foam core can suffice for a mattress. So I also added foam core underneath this just because it looks nicer. So this gives it some more stability. So if you were playing with, again, if you wanted this for your child, you know, they can, you know, there's something there. Nothing's going to bow and twist or anything. So I like that solution. I need to work on how I want to put it together, and how I think this needs to be added as another pattern piece. Does that make sense? Like, you can just fold this if you want to and make it out of something else, or make it out of the paper. Now, these two, again, I talked about when I'm working on just one piece, I can really concentrate. I realized I can really concentrate just on that piece, especially if it's a piece that's more complicated in that it has more pieces that need to fit correctly together to make the final. And I don't think that this particularly the bunk beds are that complicated. There's a lot of repetition with folding, especially on these little bedposts, and I think that sometimes I may be just overcomplicating it because, you know, that's just me. You got to do things pretty precisely. And you can see in here where the cutout pieces, it really does kind of look like it goes through the mattress. I like this better because it creates more stability. The mattress fits in, so it's fixed. This is some fabric that I have that I took a picture of and I messed around with in GIMP to get the color where I wanted it. So I think what I'm going to do is, I really love these little curvy bits, but I think that when it comes down to it, I think for anything that I release to people, I think I'm going to do a simplification of this and make a curve. That's, you know, I may just include the curve along with that, and you have your choice. I don't know. But I like how these two came out, because I think I meant this to be the bunk beds. It should be about 11 centimeters. This turned out to be 11.1. So I had to do a little figuring and some tiny bits of math to get this cut correctly. But I like how this turned out. I also realized that I could easily turn this into a canopy bed. I could also, if I wanted to, do like one of those fancy beds where it's like it comes up and it comes out, but then it's got like draperies and such. Yeah, my brain just keeps going. So everything fits pretty well. Like I said, I need to add some glue to this side because I would prefer, and I may just go ahead and just do that now or after I'm done here and glue that in, because the mattress doesn't fit completely to the side, and I'm okay with that. I designed it that way. And then, of course, I had to pull out, if you've got, you know, there's the little, it needs a little lamp and a little book or something. It needs the little blankets and such. So, yeah, that's where I am right now. And I think today, the weather is starting the heat is starting to kind of not be as horribly intense. I'm going to sit down and look at a couple of things. There's some pieces that I really need to make that I haven't yet, like the toy box, because I instantly wanted to put a toy box at the end of this, or a little chest at the end of this. So I'm going to be cutting out some new pieces today and working on those. So let me know what you think. Thanks for sticking around with me, patrons, and I'll see you in the next video.